Today is day 18 of a 20-day challenge that I set myself and that I also set mentees, clients, friends of mine. The alchemical practice really is to find voice. It's to put yourself in a supremely uncomfortable position, switching the camera on and speaking your heart out, wherever you may be coming from, unrehearsed, no filters, no script. The thing is, when you're low, you show up as low. When you're kind of lost it a bit, you show up as that. And that vulnerability actually has an alchemical effect on you over the 20 days. And it's quite profound. So we're on day 18 now. And it's actually gone okay. So I had a slump around day 12 to day 13, which, if you follow the journey arc of the tarot, which is one of the things that I teach, it's interesting because that's where you encounter the Hanged Man and death. Anyway, so what I wanted to talk about today, which I don't know how well it's going to land, but c'est la vie, is I was listening to, I have no idea what's happening. Well, I just told you what's happening. This is day 18 of a 20-day live challenge where I'm speaking live into the camera for 20 days, talking about what's on my mind. So I'm a thought leader, I'm a philosopher, I'm a poet, I'm a critic of the present moment. And this is my thought stream. So if you're curious, you can go and look up my work on my Substack and you can understand what's going on better. Also, you can look at the previous 18 days and see if you can orientate yourself that way. So you said it's related to tarot, so this day is related to the 18th card. I don't know necessarily, but I know that yesterday I related it. I was talking about feeling disoriented and looking for that orientation again, and it happened to be day 17. And that happens to be the number of the star, which is about Dharma and orientation and navigation. So I've got a second Substack to the gentleman that's joined me here today called Hermetica Reiterated. And you can go and check that Substack, and I've analyzed every single one of the 22 major arcana cards in enormous detail. And I've done it symbolically, semiotically, etymologically, archetypally, mythically, alchemically, kabbalistically, hermetically, and there's a lot to go on there. And if the connection speaks to me, it speaks to me, and if it doesn't, it doesn't. So this today would be the moon, but I'm not feeling any connection to that I feel necessary to talk to. So. But what I did want to talk about was, I was listening to a comedian this morning. So I have to drive through from here to a place called Subiaco in the mornings of Tuesdays, because the bakery that we get our daily bread from, the French bakery, it doesn't open over the weekends and it has a rest day on Mondays. Now, we spoke on Saturday about the power of a Sabbath, a rest day, this cyclic interruption to our normal cadence, just so that we can reset ourselves. And what the bakery does it on a Monday. So on Tuesday morning, Maya goes back to school. I had her yesterday for the whole day, and then I've got to shoot through in the morning and get a loaf of bread. And on the way, I listen to something. So it's either the astrology podcast I listen to, or I listen to Sam Harris droning on to some interesting guest. The moon is the message for me then. Thank you for your participation in the flow. May God bless your journey. C'est la vie. Now, if you really want to deepen that, I recommend go and look at the card for the moon that I wrote. It's got a piece right at the end called an inner reflection. And maybe that inner reflection will speak to you, and then you can decide whether you want to keep following my work in Hermetica Reiterated or over here. So have a great day, man. And I'm glad we had this exchange. And then just hit a little tiny love heart on the bottom of your screen there so that the infernal algorithm knows that here is a conversation, here's something happened that humans care about. Or not. So I was talking about a podcast that I was listening to, and it was Bill Burr. And I like Bill Burr. I find him very human. I find him relatable. And he is a perfect intersection for me of American culture that can speak to the dysfunction of the present moment. Why? For a number of reasons. One, because he's a comedian, and this is the time of the trickster. And he knows how to hold that line And his practice, his craft, his calling is all about holding that line, right? And it's not a line that I hold very well. I don't work with the trickster archetype very well. In fact, I'm very Saturnian, and some part of me is deeply aggrieved by the chaotic nature of what happens in the world and what happens especially at such a moment. Now, another podcast I follow is called The Emerald, and there's a gentleman called Josh Schray whose work I'm apprenticing myself to, because I love the way he explains concepts, and I love the way he makes room for the animist worldview, but in a very sensible and well considered dialogue, and that really appeals to me. And one of the things that he says is that if we don't make room for the trickster in our ceremonies, if we don't ritualize our own disruptions and the necessary disruptions to our cadences and flow, if we don't ritualize these things, then this trickster archetype will manifest in one way or the other. And his take is it's manifesting in America right now. That's what we're watching. We're watching the unrespected trickster energy finding a way to disrupt everything. And the trickster jumps sides. You think it's on your side, then it's on the other side. One of the telltale signs that you know you're looking at the trickster is that moron with the buffalo horns and the painted face during the January 6th insurrection on the Capitol building in America. Is people looked at that and they couldn't figure out what they were watching, because the people that had a shamanistic worldview found him offensive. The ultra right wingers that realized he became the face of their movement became offended. And that's exactly how the trickster works. He pisses everybody off and he has a laugh at everybody's expense. And someone like Bill Burr, he's a white guy from Massachusetts, married a black woman. He's got black kids. He comes from the East Coast, but he now lives in the West Coast, in Los Angeles. He came up the ranks, right? Absolutely grinding his way towards the top. And so he knows the sickness in the industry, but he also knows the value of old school values and hard work and integrity. And he's a gem. He's an absolute gem of a human being. He's not caught into the trap of the left or the right politics. And to me, that's the kind of voice you want to make airtime for, especially considering, hey, Jim, talking about Bill Burr, especially considering he's a comedian. In other words, he can channel and straddle that chaotic force of the trickster, and he can channel it out to us. And one of the things he says is he goes, oh my God, I'm so sick and tired of narcissists. I already have it in the American president. I don't want it in my daily life. And this is the point that he made. He said the last time Americans had a president that could deliver a speech that wasn't embarrassing was Barack Obama. And he said that because what did we have before? We had a senile, old, doddering fool that kind of couldn't string a sentence together before. And however well-meaning he may or may not have been. And then we have somebody who's got a different kind of incoherence, but one born of just absolute runaway narcissism. And that means the last time Americans could count on a president making a speech that was both coherent, inspiring, and kind of didn't incur international embarrassment was Barack Obama, right? And we went from a sort of flim-flam con man to a senile, doddering old granddad back to the flim-flam guy again. Now, that's not my point. This is my point. My point is this, is that when you see the heroes and the stars and the highest person, the highest office in the country occupied by someone, it's not Biden. That's the problem. It's not Trump that's the problem. These two are symptoms of the two polarities of what? They're the two polarities of our archetypal solar father, this format of a leader that we think of. So either it's a narcissistic strongman, or it's a folksy old doddering gramps. That's how we know we're in trouble, America. We know we're in trouble because our two modes, the two pillars holding the temple up of the archetypal solar father, which is the central leadership figure. Interestingly enough, to the gentleman who joined early on, the sun's coming up tomorrow, right? That'll be the 19th card. And in the tarot sequence. And, around this time, Mars astrologically is directly opposing Pluto. And Pluto is about the underworld and Hades and death and rebirth. And Mars is about this young buck energy, this let's go, foot on the gas pedal, let's make it happen. And so it seems like the whole world is almost caught in this poised moment, focused on talk about the death of the solar father. The Pope just died. Now, he wasn't my solar father figure, but for at least 1 billion people on the planet, right? That is the poster boy for that project, the Catholic project, right? That guy died, right? So now when we talk about this capitulation of the solar father figure, it actually is something that needs to capitulate. This is a kindness from the universe, from the cosmos. So I know I've rambled a lot, but there's a coherence threading through all this. So I'm talking about this archetypal idea that shapes our minds, that shapes our society's minds, that shapes a community's mind. And one of these ideas is the solar father. It's this ideal image that we have of leadership, of say-so, of where the buck stops, who makes the big calls. We always have these. We always have these figures. If you think about the emblem that Alexander the Great and the Macedonians carried as they expanded the Macedonian Empire throughout Asia, it was a picture of a sun. Yeah, the astrological sign that's associated with that is Leo. Julius Caesar was a solar father figure. Napoleon Bonaparte, Napoleon, he was the Lion of Naples. Yeah, he considered himself walking in the footsteps of Julius Caesar, and Julius Caesar considered himself proud to be emulating the journey of Alexander the Great. Here we have, burned into the human psyche, excuse me, I'm getting over a cold, this idea of a lawmaker, a lawgiver, the guy on top, the king of kings. Yeah. Moses was often depicted with kind of horns, but the horns were coming from behind his head, like rays. Yeah. All of our ideal forms of leadership are given this kind of shine. And basically, on an archetypal level, what this is implying, right? Come here, my sweetheart. What this is implying is our reverence for and our need for. Say good morning, folks.
Bye. Bye.
Bye bye. Are you going to go to school? Okay, I'll see you later. Bye. Hey, Darkstar, you've entered into a somewhat mystical ramble here, but it's a good one. We're talking about how our leaders become mirrors of the society that they lead. And then if you look at the kind of characters we have in America at the moment, there's this clear polarity between this old folksy kind of amalgam, because he was the champion of this, the liberal, the slightly woke, what used to be the progressive view of the world. What a joke, right? You've got this doddering old granddad that's now the people's champion of the liberal agenda and of the Republican agenda. These people that don't want a king, that don't want a Caesar, a world without Caesars where everyone can make it for himself. Their hero now is this guy that wants to become the Caesar. That's how you know we're fucked, right? It's because everything's a little bit upside down. And that is exactly the trickster energy. That's the trickster energy at play. And all of this is archetypal. And what I'm trying to say is that if you look at everything through this archetypal lens, everything makes a lot more sense. One of the guys whose work I follow is called Michael Meade. He's an American elder. And his craft and calling is telling stories and initiating people into the meaning of old stories and old tropes and old archetypes. And his turn of phrase is something like this. He says, in this terribly literal reductionist world that we have, what you have is a lot of truths that have been woven together and meshed together in such a way that they conspire to create a great lie. And mythos, mythology, our sense of story, that sensibility that we have that is almost atrophied in ourselves and in our societies. It's not something we teach at school or initiate young people into. That is actually a way of telling tall tales in a way that paints a much clearer, a much more durable truth. Yeah. So our reductionist left brain sensibilities is all about overwhelming us with facts and information. We're not uninformed. We are malinformed. We are overinformed almost. Yeah. And all of those truths are arranged in a way that creates the great lie. That's the great lie that we're living right now. And it's our stories that we've forgotten actually that are all, none of them they're all fictional, right? They are not literal. They're not literal. And yet they come together to illuminate a profound truth. And much of my work actually is hermetics, is reason, is understanding the detail and parsing it. Here's my lovely wife joined. But exactly the other half has to be the other project. So if hermetics is the one pillar by which I understand philosophy and science and reason and all the rest of it, then this animist worldview needs to be the counter to that, so that I can retain and renew and replenish my sensibility and my ability to have that secondary conversation in the world, right? And so half of my work is focused on logos, reason, science, logic, sensibility, structure and form. And the other half is mythos, this very necessary form of sense making in the world that gives us our meaning making, And if you take a look at the mirror of America, the populace, the crowd, that's your mirror. And they are torn down the middle, right? They cannot agree on anything. There is a schism on boomers and millennials. On age, they're now hating on each other. On race, they're hating on each other. On anything that happens in the world, somebody invades another country, somebody kidnaps people from another country, doesn't matter what it is. Immediately, the mob will divide itself into two arguing factions. And doesn't social media just come along and shake the jar of ants to make sure everybody stays agitated and everybody's copying and commenting and adding to and being pulled into that stupid game with no discernment, no presence, no intentionality, just being played, right? Waiting for the fucking tower to topple over. Waiting for the tower to topple over. Waiting for this moment of deluge to come and fucking wreck us all. And that is absolutely coming. And you can tell it's coming. Just read the old stories, read the play, read the room, and you know it's coming. But if anyone's confused or you don't know how to make sense of the present moment in America, look at the two factions and the kind of leaders that they engender. Yeah. And then immediately you have the mirror held up and this clear archetypal silhouette drawn to say on the one side is this buffoon of a strongman who his intention is not to lie so that you believe his lies. His intention is to lie with such a velocity that you can now believe nothing. And case closed. That's how you win, right? It's also how the internet's behaving. Just bombard you with what can you believe today? You can't believe a single thing because no one is playing in good faith. Some people are well-meaning but uninformed. Some people are very well-informed but bad-meaning. And there's combinations of everything. And everyone's arguing about everything. And it's the time of the trickster. But if you want to know what's going on, look at the leaders, look at the archetypes that they embody. Educate yourself on archetype. And suddenly you will understand exactly what you're in the middle of and how to respond better. Anyway. So that was a deeply meandering ramble all over the place, but it had a much more mythic kind of swing to it. And it had a sense of urgency as well, right? There is a fucking urgency in the world that we are living with. And if you haven't noticed it, you're living under a rock, man. I'm not here to preach fire and brimstone and to preach doom. I'm here to wake you up to the evident doom that is already pending. It's already pending. Some part of your psyche already knows all of this is happening, and it's making an insane amount of sense. And the trouble that you're having is processing all of this. Right, now, that whole conundrum of what to believe and how to make sense of this, how to parse this, how do I respond to this moment? What can I do? I've sat with all of these questions, and now I'm looking for collaborators, meaningful, intelligent, serious, mature collaborators to help me foster what I think is a sane, adult, mature human response to all of this. And the banner that's happening under is the project called A Better Way. So hit that little love heart, folks, hit me with them likes, because if you don't normalize this form of interaction and engagement, then we're not pegging our little stake in the soil and saying to the algorithm and the machine, here is a conversation that human beings care about. You have to do your part. You have to do your part. But come and find me, come and work with Chetan and I. We're going to be issuing a roadmap. We're going to be issuing a project charter, which is going to work like a kind of manifesto. But it's not a political manifesto, and it's not me and my ideology. It's a human manifesto. It's what we need to manifest. It's the dream that we need to cultivate again so that we can begin to unfuck this. And not for ourselves, because we're going to have a crash. Our test is going to be crisis, right? It's so that we can, this is the main gist of it. I don't want to have to look in my daughter's eyes one day, and when she says to me, oh my God, did you know all this was happening? And I say, yes. And then she says, what did you do? What did you do, Mummy? What did you do, Daddy? I want to say we did everything we could, right? I can't be the only one. I cannot be the only one. There have to be saner responses to the madness that's unfolding at the moment. And they are still human beings. They are still human beings that want the right thing. They want the good thing. But you know what we're all missing? We're missing the reminder that A, something is still possible. And that B, we can actually change the world. We can, you can do this. The world is being changed. The world is changing all the time. And there is a power that human beings can harness when they act in concert, in alignment with their own intentionality, their own conscience, their own calling in the world, right? And a Better Way project, the aim of that is to initiate people quite pragmatically into the awareness of their own calling and what can still be done. And if you can't believe that we can change things, that we can still make a difference, then you might as well roll over like a possum and play dead now. But I'm not going out like that. And I don't think you want to go out like that. So this sounds like a very good idea. I would certainly like to learn more about it. Well, Darkstar, secretly, this 20-day arc that I'm running here has all been about me trying to find different ways to say more or less the same thing. I'm talking about the human condition. I'm talking about this pending trouble that is already here. It's already here. Does this seem more to you like a dystopian movie like The Matrix or like Dark City or Such a Story or like The Truman Show? It's more like that. So we already have these clear signatures of what the fuck is happening right now. And I like to say to people, we've got two futures ahead of us. The one is Timothée Chalamet in Wonka, and the other one is Timothée Chalamet in Dune. These are our options. These are our options. It's either a shitty dystopia, hey James, or it's we start dreaming a dream of our own, and we connect with what is most beautiful and what is most human in us, our originality, our hopes and dreams, right? But we can't do that like the crystal wavers and the 5D ascension Muppets are doing, because it's not a grown-up project. That is not a grown-up project. We can't just use the cheat codes and change the game. This is a fucking human project, and it's going to take human beings maturing, growing up, and doing what's necessary. And if you ever think for a second, there's nothing I can do, I'm just one person, let me tell you right now, you go to my Substack, there is it's called Thought Leader. You can go there right now, and you can find the second or the third article down. It's called Self-Initiation for the Serious Player. Read that, digest it. If you struggle with it, put it into ChatGPT and ask ChatGPT to analyze it and explain the gist of it. Find your way to understanding what's being said there. And the gist of all of that is what you can do. That is what you can do. You can become initiated into a fellowship, a brotherhood, an intentionality, and ordering, an order of humans that want good human outcomes that are going to reject the default. We want to live our life by design, not live our life by default. That's what I want. That's what I want. And this 20-day arc was me just finding my own balance of piss and vinegar and anger and despair and frustration so that I could just distill that plain message. What we need is leadership. It can't all come from me, but I've got my job to do. I know what my dharma is. My dharma is to explain complex shit. My dharma is to hold a mirror up that you can start looking into and make sense of the world in yourself and out there. I've got my job. I don't need to lead this whole thing. You need to lead you. And there's a way to do it. And the way to do that is self-initiation. And I can teach you how to do that. That's why a Better Way project exists. And we need lots of this kind of energy, right? And we need to restrain the chaos inside of ourselves. We need to grow up inside of ourselves on different levels. And it's complex, right? Hence the project, hence all my work. So it's not as if we're starting from nothing, but all of this magic is waiting for people to arrive. I'm burning myself to death here, prattling into cameras, writing essays, writing practices, and devotional poetry and prayers, and all of that has enormous utility. But none of that utility is actualized until humans pick it up and engage with it and start testing it in prod and say, it needs an adjustment here, it needs an improvement there. I think we can do better. Great, let's do that, right? Because this whole project is going to be agile. There's no right or only ways to do things, but that doesn't mean there aren't better and worse ways. And we just assume there's always a better way. And we start figuring out what that is and leaning that way. But we need people now. We need contributions of time, of skill, of money, we need that. We need that. That's a necessity. You can't get by without that. And we're fighting. This is the war for the human soul that we're in. This is it. This is the battle of our time. It's come. It's here. There's not another sign that you're waiting for, right? This is it. This is the sign. You're either going to find a way to pull your finger out of your ass now and say, oh shit, I mean, what was I thinking? What was I waiting for? I was lulled into the sense that someone else is coming. No one else is coming. No one else is coming. The old tropes have run out now. We've just got this series of one buffoon after the other that's making all these ridiculous claims. Let me tell you what the answer is not. It's not the transhumanist agenda. How fucking stupid. I'm now going to cede control to a thing that has absolutely no soul and get it to usher us into this great, enormous future. How stupid. The one thing that algorithm or the AI or this steering factor that we're now leashing the reins to, instead of us training that thing how to help this project of emergence of the human species, if we're ever to get out of this, it's going to be an escape velocity that we achieve through an alignment of our logos, us figuring out our place in cosmos, and us identifying our role in all of that as participatory conscious agents. Yeah? Unless we do that, and again, this is all unpacked in my essays, and I'm giving you the topspin, the quick ramble here. But unless we do that, that escape trajectory is out of bounds for us. We don't reach that. Instead, we go down this other path of this transhumanist singularity. It's a fucking horror show, right? and that's really our option here. What is being created today is a feudal cattle class. There is a class that pulls the strings and makes decisions, and they're not consciously aligned. They're not aligned to human dharma. They're not aligned to goodwill. They're just not, right? They're just are not. And they're not evil. They are uninitiated and they're over-empowered, right? But fortunately, power sits with the masses. It sits with the people. But we are uninitiated into our own responsibility, and we're uninitiated into our own potential. And we don't know how to stand up and shake off these systems of influence and control because we don't have the inner life, the archetypal language, the sense-making, the meaning-making by which to defy these archetypal demiurgic linchpins that hold the sick order in place. And the only way to get better at that is to level up. And the only way to do that is through proper initiation. So James writes, my Dharma is to improve the future, a new paradigm forward, discovering ethos humanitas, homo globalis, within the depth of the theory of everything. Right. Now, I've written a universal theory of everything, which is still in draft mode, but it's profoundly coherent, it's profoundly helpful, and it's profoundly hopeful. Profoundly hopeful, right? It's a Copernican revolution of the mind. But instead of where Copernicus took us out of the central place in the cosmos and said we're kind of less significant, part of that is true and part of that was necessary. This is now also pointing out that displacement is actually a recursive displacement that goes all the way up to the source of reason. But there's this other thing that actually has to put us back into the center of the cosmos again. It's a paradox. Now, I'll talk more about it tomorrow. I've probably been speaking way too long over here. I'm probably going to lose a lot of people, but I don't mind, because the people that I'm going to be losing obviously aren't resonating with this kind of sense making. And the people that I am energizing are exactly the kind of people that I'm trying to draw towards this beacon. I'm not trying to draw crazies toward like moths towards a lamplight in the dark. I'm trying to draw the human soul up out of its own slumber towards a beacon, like a lighthouse across the stormy sea, so that we know when we go to that safe harbor, there is sense making. There, human beings are collaborating towards a better future. That's the aim. It's done for evolution. Yeah, there needs to be some adjustments to your language and your sense making, James, but that's exactly what I exist for. So you're close, you've got the right intentions. There's just a few rounding errors that come with the old coding and programming, and then there's a bit of things that we can pick up along the way that actually don't serve us. They're little bugs and snags in our language and in our understanding. It's not a lot, but let me show you where it is. And then if it makes sense to you, you can make that adjustment. And that's exactly the kind of service that I'm trying to offer through that initiatory container. So I can tell that I need to clear up some of my thoughts here. I need to distill what I'm saying. I am funny, but I'm also right. Sadly, James. I'm also right. And I've given this an inordinate amount of reflection and thought, and I've done the math, and I've compared this to what it needs to be compared to. And I think I think you'll discover I know exactly what I'm talking about here. Yeah, that's it, man. I think I'm going to check out, but I need to distill this and make it coherent and put out clear offerings to people so that people know what they're landing into. They know what the container looks like. They know what we stand for and what we're trying to achieve. And so thank you very much, everyone, for helping me iron that ramble out. It's been necessary and useful to me. It's going to be difficult for anybody coming in and trying to listen to this and make sense of us if you weren't in the flow and in the energy, but it's informed me what I need to say and how I need to say it. So I appreciate you. Thank you very much. Give me those love hearts, people. I need it. We all need it. The project needs it. Have an epic day. Vaya con Dios.